So I've made this following video for you, and it's about
I use it to understand complex ideas faster and get tailored explanations. So one of the key things I love as an example is thinking about blockchain. So blockchain is a technology, and it's one of those technologies that lots of people have been talking about over the last few years, but few can really describe what it is. So I'm going to use Bard again to describe what blockchain is. So I'll explain blockchain using a simple everyday analogy. I'm just going to edit that because it didn't. Right. And it's going to have a think, and it's one of those things. So sure, here's a simple analogy for blockchain using everyday objects. Imagine a group of friends who want to keep track of who owes who money. They could use a notebook to write down each transaction, but that would be inefficient and error-prone. Instead, they could use blockchain. And blockchain is like a shared notebook that everybody in the group has a copy of. And this is true. This is exactly how blockchain works. It is a distributed database that everybody has their own copy. So it always has the most up-to-date information about who owes who money. Another example that we can use is if that's got too many unusual concepts, I like to use this one all the time. Explain to me like I'm 5. And it should, there we go, for a 5-year-old. Imagine you have a bunch of Legos. Yes, this is the sort of thing I love to see. So Legos, and you can build anything you want with them, like a house or a car or a spaceship. But what if you wanted to make sure that no one could change your Lego creations without your permission? You could use blockchain. A blockchain is a giant Lego chain. Each Lego in the chain is a transaction. And when you make a transaction, you add it to the chain, and the chain is shared with everybody else who has Legos. Okay, so it's talking about how they all fit together. And it's quite an interesting way. Remember, Bard has done multiple drafts, so you can use the different drafts to make sure, read them, and see if there's an analogy that you prefer from that. So it's a nice just way of making sure that you are learning and cross-referencing against other ways of doing it. Cool. So other helpful prompts to help you think about ways that you can learn new information. I've already showed explain to me like I'm 5. I keep on using that example as much as I possibly can. Another one is just give me an analogy. You can ask for a specific analogy. So give me an analogy referencing Lego and teach me another thing. That's a good way of doing it. What are the key topics to understand in the subject? What are the pros and cons? So I'm a big fan of understanding the pros and the cons. So it prevents you from having too much groupthink. Create a plan with the top 5 areas to focus on to improve my skills. And that's a perfect example. I want to learn this new programming language, but what are the key things that I need to learn first so that I might start my learning journey on that? Another thing is transform the key points of whatever it is into a story or narrative, because we really enjoy stories as human beings. This is how we absorb new information. Another really exciting one is create a quiz to test me on my understanding of X. So you can actually use it to test out your knowledge that you should have learned already. And that's a really good learning technique. If you ever really want to know if you know a subject, quiz yourself on the subject or get AI to quiz you. And then finally, help me apply X to a real life situation. So lots of helpful ways that we can learn new things. But another great way, a thing that we can be doing with AI today is using it to create content. So if you're stuck for an idea, AI tools can spark your creativity and help you explore new ideas. One particular example, you can use it to create subject lines or create tweets or create content. One of the things that I really like to do is create multiple versions of the same thing, because as humans, I feel that we get a lot of sort of mental creative block when we're trying to think up new ideas. But it's really easy to look through a list of 20 and go, I like that one, I like that one, I don't like that one, and then start deciding for yourself, what is it about those different examples that you like, and maybe hone more into those, the ones that you like. Another thing you can do is iterate as you go. So you can say, oh, no, I want this more formal or less formal, or more shouty, which is what we've got here with the Hawaiian shirts. 20% off. So yes, using it to help speed up the writing process. This isn't to write it for you, it's to help you collaborate with the AI and get editing suggestions and change the tone with ease. Some particularly good things, I mean, I've used it to help me write reports, to help with strategy documents, to help me write emails asking for a refund. It can write event agendas and even briefs. But the key thing that I want to say with each of these cases, the human, you are the decision maker, you're in the driving seat, and you're just helping it iterate on the idea until it's perfect. So we'll go and have a look at an example. And what we are going to do, in fact, let me grab some text that I'm going to give to Bard here. And so I'm a company, and I want it to write a description, sorry, for a new product listing of a delicious lemon cake with pink icing and blue ribbons for birthdays. And as you can see, it's created the product name and it's created a product description. This delicious lemon cake is perfect for any celebration. The moist lemon cake is topped with a fluffy pink icing and decorated with blue ribbons. It's sure to be a hit for anyone at your party. Oh, and it's got a list of features as well. Oh, and benefits. Maybe the benefits is too much. So as a human, I might be saying, that's too much. Make it more fun sounding. And let's see if we can give it a bit more style, because I want it to be a little bit more fun sounding one. And it's going to say, it's the perfect way to celebrate your special day. Imagine the scene. Your friends and your family are gathered around singing happy birthday to you. You blow out the candles and make a wish, and then you cut the cake and everyone oohs and ahs about the delicious lemon flavor. So it's a lovely way to just iterate on an idea and think about different ways in approaching the content. Ultimately, again, you decide. So if you find this a little bit too much, that's okay. It's something that you are ultimately in control of. Excellent. So hopefully that's inspired you to think about not just accepting the first thing that it outputs, but really going into how you can get a more interesting product description just by bouncing ideas. Another thing that you can do is you can visualize ideas. So if you're stuck for an idea, AI tools can help spark your creativity and help you explore new possibilities. So the tool that I'm showing on this screen here, this is Adobe Firefly. And as you can see, if you query it, it will, you ask for an image, and it will show you that image, as it were, or different variations of that image. And I find it particularly useful. I use AI image generation tools all the time to help me do visual storyboarding and visual storytelling. But you can ask AI to create images of yellow balloons in this example, because you're preparing for a photo shoot for maybe the delicious lemon cake from before. And you just want to understand, okay, do we want one balloon? Do we want multiple balloons? What sort of backdrop do we want? And it can help you create that mood board so that you can get the perfect product shot when it actually comes to creating the images that you really want to do. So it's a great way to help you inspire new design ideas. And it's fascinating to see what you can come up with just a few words. Interesting. Emails, data entry. In fact, I can see there's tons of things that people find repetitive, time consuming. And this is really useful. I'll be able to go through these. But the key ones I want to draw out, I can see reading appearing a few times, emails, reports, scheduling meetings. That's amazing. So don't be afraid to keep on typing to that. I will hopefully come back to some of these throughout the talk, but they're very useful to hear, the sort of things that keep us busy at work. Cool. So like I said, this is AI for productivity. The things we'll be covering today, we will have an introduction to what AI actually is, give a brief overview of how it works. We'll also be exploring some of the AI-powered tools for productivity and hopefully a few recipes for creating amazing prompts that will keep you being more productive. So, a brief overview of AI. AI is all over the news today, but it certainly hasn't happened overnight. At Google, they see it, the growth of AI, as what you might call the third shift. The first was the arrival of the internet in the 90s. By making information on anything and everything available everywhere, the web changed we understood and connected to people in the world around us. And e-commerce grew and changed the way that we did business. In around 2007, there became the big shift to smartphones, and they grew in popularity. So we saw the second shift as mobile. Mobile allowed people to access the internet anywhere, anytime. So the internet came to you. This changed the way that we interacted with the web and the world around us. We saw an accelerated rise in social media and e-commerce through mobile devices. And we saw this trend of second screening. And that allowed businesses of all kinds, from fashion brands to banks, to connect to customers in a more direct way than ever before. And also created a lot of data as a result of that. So the amount of data that we saw on the internet actually grew exponentially. Now, throughout all this period, artificial intelligence was bubbling away in the background. And more recently, we've seen this third shift that really goes into AI being available for everybody. And what AI allows us to do is really consume that huge amount of data we've been creating over the past shifts and use it in ways that are just amazing for us to forecast and utilize the data. It really has a potential to change the way that we all live and work in profound ways. One thing I do want to emphasize, though, AI is just a tool like the internet and like mobile phones. So in the same way that drum machines haven't replaced drummers, cameras haven't replaced painters, and social media hasn't replaced real-world interactions, AI isn't a substitute for human intelligence and creativity. Instead, it promises to be a way to help people and to enhance the way that they can interact. So, artificial intelligence can sometimes be a quite nebulous term that can be used interchangeably when you hear it about in the news, for example. In basic terms, artificial intelligence describes digital systems that can reason, learn, and act in a way that would normally require human intelligence or involve data whose scale exceeds that which a human can analyze. Typically, AI systems are trained on lots of data, and they use the data to make decisions, solve problems, and create content. The field of AI is growing really fast, and it's being used more and more in ways. Like AI can have a major impact on our lives. It can help us tackle the biggest challenges facing the world today, from mitigating against the impact of climate change, or advancing the way that we treat illness and disease. It can also make our lives easier and more convenient. AI is already behind so many of the products you use today, like AI chatbots on websites, on social media apps. I mean, Google's AI-powered Google Assistant is able to answer any question you like because it's able to learn from similar questions it's been asked in the past, as well as recognizing the way that your voice sounds. Netflix knows what films and TV series you are most likely to want to watch because it's been trained on not only your past viewing habits, but also the viewing habits of all other subscribers with similar tastes to you. And without AI technologies, the cameras and shelf-mounted sensors in Tesco's, in the world of banking, we can actually preemptively stop fraudulent transactions using AI to understand any transactions that might not be exactly what's expected. So as AI technology continues to develop, we can expect to see even more innovative and helpful applications. To begin with, it's important to understand that AI is a broad term and covers many different types of function. And I like to define it as two broad senses. So the first is predictive AI, and this is where machine learning systems aim to make predictions for future events and outcomes based on historical data. Systems can analyze patterns and relationships and determine their prediction, and it learns from those historical things to form that prediction. For example, a retail business can analyze the buying patterns of different customer demographics, and the business could see which types of customers are more likely to make a certain purchase a certain product. And this type of technology can also be used to classify information, for example, speech, and working out the intent of specific utterances. Second type of AI function, it's the one that you've probably heard about most recently, is generative. This is where people are getting really excited, and it's not new, it's just far easier to do right now than it's ever been in the past. And it may have led you signing up to this course today, so it's really exciting. This type of AI is used to create new data. For example, generative AI tools can be used to create new images, text, or music. Generative models are often trained on huge data sets of data. Once trained, they can be used to generate new data that is similar to the data that they've been trained on. For example, Bard can create email templates for you to edit. Midjourney is another application that can produce images just by typing in what you want to see. So we are going to focus on generative AI for the purposes of this course. So let's dive in and see actually how generative AI works. So a generative model can take from what it has learned from a large number of examples it's been shown and create something entirely new based on that information, hence the word generative. Large language models, or LLMs, are particularly in vogue at the moment. They're one type of generative AI, since they generate new combinations of text in form with natural sounding language. And we can build models and generate other types of outputs, such as images, audio, even video. It's important to note with these models, both the input and the output can be one of many combinations of language, text, code, images, audio, video. So the input doesn't have to be text. How does generative AI work? Well, it's quite complicated, but at a high level, generative models learn patterns in data with a goal to produce new but similar data. So it bases it off that data. Perfect example here, fish and chips. So large language models based of rows of data, it knows what a lot of language looks like. And the emergent behavior is very lifelike sounding. So the sentences produced by large language models feel like they're real sentences, like they're too good to exist, but that's because it's just been based on so much data in the past. So there have been major breakthroughs in the past with these machine learning and artificial intelligence models, which means we can achieve better performance in language models from scaling their size and reducing the amount of data required for certain tasks, which means right now we're in the exciting phase of having consumer level amazing tools that can instantly respond with very lifelike looking responses. You can already see these in a lot of the products that you're using. So if you've ever seen Smart Compose and Smart Reply in Gmail, for instance, these are using similar technology to the large language models used by Bard and ChatGPT. One word of caution, I do like to make people aware of the watch-outs that we have to consider with generative AI. The first one here is inaccuracies caused by hallucinations. So hallucinations is the scientific term that's been used to talk about when AI models like this just make up information. So it returns an answer that sounds plausible, but it's in fact not actually, it's got no context. So remember the way that large language models work, they're just predicting one word at a time. And that means they don't understand context. They just understand words that look kind of right together. So it might emerge and look like a normal sentence, but the actual context of the sentence may have shifted away from what is actual reality. And that's why we call it hallucinations. It's essential that you double check any information that an AI-powered tool gives you, cross-reference it, and use search and other tools to verify that that information is indeed correct. Another potential drawback of generative tools is that they rely on the quality of data that they're trained on, and the quality of the data that they're trained on is the whole internet. So it contains information that can be wrong, can be incomplete, and also can contain bias. So it can be risky to rely on them alone. That is one of the reasons why Bard uses Palm, the Palm language model behind the scenes. As part of Google's own commitment to responsible AI development, Google continually evaluates the potential risks of harmful training content that could affect Bard, such as toxic language and social bias. So whilst a lot of the companies that produce these amazing systems do their best to try and protect their users, do be aware that the content being produced by them may not pass that social bias test. So always champion the social responsibility yourself when you're dealing with large language models. Another one, you should be aware that you really shouldn't be sharing confidential company information or confidential information to any public large language model. So this information can go into a system, and you've got to check the terms of whether the system is likely to be trained on the inputs as well as the outputs. So remember, if it is learning and training from the inputs that you type in, there is a possibility that those inputs could actually turn into outputs in the future. So whenever you're dealing with any AI system, do check the terms to make sure that you can use it responsibly. So one of the things I always do when I'm using large language models is I don't refer to real people, and I don't try to refer to real events. If you talk about things in a more generic sense, it's a better way to make sure that you're not sharing confidential information. If in doubt, just make sure that you read and understand the terms behind the service that you're using. So just go into it mindfully. Despite all of these limitations, as long as you use large language models and understand their limitations and understand they're not perfect, they can be very powerful tools with the potential to take your productivity to new levels. Teams at Google have been experimenting with AI tools to help them be more productive and creative. And now we're sharing some of those productivity tips to you. Excellent. So we've done the basics. Let's go on to some of these AI-powered tools for productivity. We will be getting on to some demos as well. So hopefully everything will go okay, fingers crossed. So there are 4 main ways that AI can help you be more productive. Summarizing content is really useful. You can use it to condense and analyze knowledge. You can discover new skills and learn new things. Another useful way to use it is in creating content and using it as a creative collaborator to help you get that content just right. And finally, to automate some tasks and trying to help you actually get some coding done behind the scenes. Excellent. So we'll start with summarizing content. So a lot of these tools are very useful at reading long, complex documents. In fact, it was one of the key things that I noticed when we did the word cloud earlier. So hopefully you're all very interested in understanding how we can use it to summarize content. AI-powered tools like Bard, ChatGPT, and Scholarly are particularly good for highlighting key information and outlining findings. You simply tell the tool which document or text you'd like to summarize, and it will analyze the content and pull out the most important information. It's a real time saver. Some helpful prompts right here. You can ask it to summarize this, ask it to create an executive summary, and that will be more formal. You can also ask for a specific number of words, and it will try to make sure it's not too long or a bit longer if you're looking for that. I particularly like working in bullet points, so create a list of 5 bullet points to summarize the key facts, or you can say summarize the most important information about a given subject that you want to do. But it's even better if I get to show you. So I'm going to swap over to some content that I'm going to summarize. So this is the Google Environmental Report 2023. And as you can see, it's quite long. In fact, it's 104 pages long. And I need to get some information from this document for a key meeting that's coming up. So like I said, you shouldn't use this as a replacement for reading the document. But if you're just trying to get some information, then it's a useful thing to do. So we've got the document, and I'll just copy the URL, and I'll open Bard. Hello, this is Bard. You just go to bard.google.com if you want to experiment with Bard. And I'm just going to paste in the PDF and nothing else. And it will have a think. And hopefully, if Bard is feeling up for it, there we go. I found the following information about the environmental report. And it's summarized the key information. I've just realized I haven't shown Bard. So I will show that again if I create a new window and I paste in the report. So that's just the URL for the environmental report. You can see it's thinking, and eventually it creates a summary. So that's the summary. It's a PDF, which are notoriously difficult to go and analyze using machines, but it clearly has done it quite well. It's also created multiple versions of this summary. So I can look at draft 3, and it will have slightly different text in this one. But I'm most important in the pages in the report that reference air quality. So I will ask Bard, and I'll actually do it using text. So talking. Can you tell me which pages reference air quality in the report? And I'll send that off to Bard. And as you can see, it's not only understood my voice, but it's also found some pages that reference air quality. Now, like I said before, hallucinations are a thing that large language models are subject to. So now I can actually go into the report and do that cross-referencing, do the due diligence to make sure the things that I wanted are actually in there. So that's not something I'll do right now, but this is a great way to make sure that you are using Bard in the best way possible. Excellent. Right. Ooh, we'll just go back to the slide deck now. Excellent. So summarizing videos and meetings is another feature that AI tools are doing. So if you use Google Meet or Zoom, you've probably seen that you can do transcriptions on the fly. I believe that I'm having my words transcribed automatically at the moment by a tool. Another tool that you can use is Otter AI. So transcriptions are a great way to make sure we understand and create a text representation of the things being said in a meeting. But one of the other things you can then do is you can then put them into another tool to summarize the notes, which can be a really helpful thing to do, especially if you're trying to work out what were the key things said, what were the moments in the meeting, where were they said? And if you can use that as well as a meeting recording, it's a great way to understand what decisions have been made in the past. Do be aware that ethically, you should always make sure that people you have permission to record the call and share it with an AI service. So do make sure that everybody in the meeting is comfortable before you start posting it into a service like this. Another really cool feature that you may have experienced is translation and descriptions. So if you've ever downloaded the Google Lens app on your mobile device, you can literally point it at things and ask for a translation. So here we are looking at English and we're trying to translate it into Welsh. And it even tries to match the font and does it on the fly. So tools like this really help with not just language barriers, but AI translation can help a lot of good collaboration between people. So using tools like Google Lens, another particularly good one is DeepL, which can translate writing directly within applications like WhatsApp. Just be aware, the AI translation is not always perfect. So it might not capture all the nuances of the text you're trying to translate. But with continued training, more examples, these technologies are always continuing to improve. So context is key, and it's a bright future for a lot of these technologies. Cool. Let's move on to learning and understanding. So we are going to use the AI-powered tools to help us learn new information and new skills. So